What Alex Eala did after one of the toughest losses of her breakout season may tell you more about her than any trophy ever could. But there's also an important twist to this story, because some of the emotional claims spreading online about what happened to her Cincinnati prize money have gone way beyond what has actually been confirmed. So before we get carried away, let's separate the incredible tennis, the real numbers, and the verified charitable connection from the rumors. Eala walked into Cincinnati riding one of the hottest stretches of her young career. The 21-year-old Filipina had spent the season proving she could stand across the net from the biggest names in women's tennis and not blink. She had already scored a string of huge victories, broken new ground for Philippine tennis, reached the second week at Wimbledon, and then captured her first WTA Tour singles title in Washington, D.C., defeating Jessica Pegula in the final. Suddenly, Eala wasn't simply an exciting prospect anymore. She was becoming a legitimate threat every time she stepped onto a hard court. Then came Amanda Anisimova. Under the humid Ohio night at the Lindner Family Tennis Center, Eala and Anisimova went toe-to-toe for 2 hours and 28 minutes. For a while, it looked like Eala was about to add another major name to her growing list of victims. The opening set was a grind. Both players held serve through the first 4 games before the 5th game turned into an absolute marathon. It lasted around 20 minutes and featured 13 deuces. Anisimova kept getting opportunities to break, 8 of them in all, but Eala refused to give an inch. Every time it looked like she might finally crack, she found another answer. That fight paid off. Eala eventually broke Anisimova late in the set and took the opener 6-4, sending her Filipino supporters into a frenzy. But Anisimova wasn't going anywhere. The second set stayed tight until the American finally broke through for a 4-3 advantage. This time, she backed it up, stayed in control, and closed out the set 6-4 to force a deciding third. Then Eala came flying out of the gate. She held serve, broke Anisimova and jumped ahead 2-0. If you had watched Eala all season, you knew exactly why that moment felt so important. She had repeatedly turned early momentum into career-changing victories against elite opponents. She had developed a reputation for refusing to be intimidated by rankings, reputations or packed stadiums. But this time, Anisimova flipped the script. One of the biggest turning points came with Eala holding a 40-15 advantage in the 5th game. She appeared ready to regain control, but Anisimova stormed back, taking the next 4 points and moving ahead 3-2. From there, the American took over. She won 16 of the final 19 points and completed the comeback, 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. That one stung. Eala had been 1 set away, then 1 early break away from another statement victory. Instead, the run ended with Anisimova moving on and Eala walking off knowing she had let a real opportunity slip through her fingers. Anisimova gave her plenty of credit afterward, describing Eala as a great player and a fighter and acknowledging just how difficult the match had been. And that respect matters, because Eala is no longer catching the tennis world completely by surprise. Opponents know what's coming now. They know about the left-handed game, the speed, the competitive fire, and the crowd that seems to follow her everywhere. The loss didn't erase what Eala accomplished in Cincinnati either. For reaching the 3rd round of the WTA 1000 event, she earned $47,375 in prize money and 65 ranking points. That's roughly several million Philippine pesos for one tournament run, and it added another significant payday to a season that had already transformed her financial standing on tour. Her Washington championship alone brought a $252,000 winner's check. Add her deep Wimbledon run, other tournament results and her Cincinnati earnings, and Eala has rapidly pushed her career prize money total into multi-million-dollar territory. Just a short time ago, she was fighting to establish herself outside the sports elite. Now she is competing for serious money on the biggest stages in women's tennis, and the ranking progress has been just as dramatic. After becoming the first Filipina to break into the WTA Top 20, Eala entered the post-Washington stretch as the highest-ranked tennis player from the Philippines in history. As of August 20th, she sits at number 20 in the women's rankings. That alone shows how quickly the landscape has changed. Think about the run she has put together. She reached the 4th round at Wimbledon, becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach the 2nd week of a Grand Slam singles event. Then she won Washington, becoming the first Filipina to capture a WTA Tour singles title. She followed that with more hard-court experience in North America and pushed Anisimova through 3 exhausting sets in Cincinnati. That brings us to the part of this story getting the most attention online. Claims that Eala responded to the Cincinnati defeat by donating part of her $47,375 prize money to aspiring young tennis players in the Philippines. It's a beautiful story. It fits perfectly with Eala's public image. But right now, it needs to be treated carefully. There is no reliable public confirmation that Eala specifically donated part of her Cincinnati prize money immediately after the Anisimova match. Various online posts have presented versions of that claim as fact, but without a verified statement from Eala, her team, an established organization receiving the money, or another credible primary source, it would be misleading to tell fans that the donation definitely happened, and there's a reason that distinction matters. Eala has already been the subject of false charity stories online. In 2025, viral posts claimed she donated an enormous $15.9 million in prize money and sponsorship income to a supposed homeless shelter in Metro Manila. Fact-checkers found no legitimate evidence supporting that claim, and the organization mentioned in those posts was actually connected to a Catholic-led housing program, not the homeless shelter described in the viral story. So when a new emotional donation claim starts making the rounds, fans should absolutely celebrate Eala's character, but they should also wait for confirmation before turning a feel-good story into a supposed fact. The good news is that Eala does have a confirmed charitable connection coming up in New York. On August 27th, she is scheduled to take part in Stars of the Open at Arthur Ashe Stadium during US Open Fan Week. The event will feature several of tennis's brightest young names, and Eala is scheduled to face her friend Iva Jovic in one of the exhibition matches. A portion of ticket proceeds will support the USTA Foundation, which provides tennis, education and mentorship opportunities to young people and under-resourced communities. That part is official. And before that exhibition, Eala has another huge opportunity. She is entered in the US Open Mixed Doubles Championship alongside Canadian star Felix Auger-Aliassime. The mixed doubles competition runs from August 24th through August 26th. Eala has already talked about how excited she is to share the court with Felix, calling the US Open an electric place to play and describing the mixed doubles field as an exciting opportunity. Then, beginning August 30th, attention turns to the US Open singles main draw at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows. And that may be the most important chapter of all, because Cincinnati showed two sides of Eala's rise. On one side, there was the heartbreak, a match she had chances to win, a 2-0 lead in the final set, and an opponent who eventually found another gear. On the other side, there was proof that Eala can push another elite player deep into a deciding set on one of the biggest hardcourt stages in the sport. That is what development at this level looks like. Great players don't win every match. They lose matches they should have closed out. They walk off court frustrated. They replay points in their heads, and then they show up again. Eala has already shown she can do that. A little more than a year ago, the idea of a Filipina becoming a WTA champion, reaching the Wimbledon fourth round and entering the US Open as a top 20 player would have sounded almost unbelievable. Now it's reality. So maybe the biggest takeaway from Cincinnati isn't an unverified donation story at all. Maybe it's something more powerful because it's completely real. Alex Eala lost a painful match, but the momentum around her career didn't disappear with the final point. She still has New York ahead of her. She still has mixed doubles with Felix Auger-Aliassime. She still has the Stars of the Open exhibition supporting programs for young people. And most importantly, she still has another Grand Slam opportunity waiting. Amanda Anisimova won the battle in Cincinnati, but Alex Eala's story is nowhere close to finished. Now the question is whether this painful defeat becomes fuel for something even bigger at the US Open. If you're following Eala's incredible rise, hit the like button, subscribe for more tennis stories and updates, and tell us in the comments, how far do you think Alex Eala can go in New York?